Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A few housekeeping announcements before we begin our program for today. Number one, kindly mute your microphone for the entire session and only open it during Q&A session or you can ask a question in the chat box. Number two, please fill up the registration form for your attendance. And the last one, all students are encouraged to please switch on your camera. We seek your full cooperation for the smooth running of this program. The ceremony will be starting shortly. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning and warm welcome I bid to our guest of honor, Professor Datuk Dr. Asma binti Ismail, Assistant Professor Dr. Intan Azura binti Syahdan, Principal of Mahalah Upukathum, Honorable lecturers and all participants. Welcome to Motivational Program for Resilient Women. I am Raida Akmal binti Ahmad, and I am delighted to be your MC for this program. To attain blessing from Allah, let us commence this program with recitation of dua from Sister Aisyah Hazira. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma innaka dzaful azim, innaka sami'un alim, innaka rabbul rahim, innaka rabbul arsyil azim, innaka al-jawadul jawadul karim. Ya Allah ya Rahim. Please be the God that love afterwards. Peace and mercy be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and for those who believe the frontier to the judgment day. Allahumma ya Allah, in conjunction with our program and university and faith towards you in favor of all the infinite blessing to us, we humbly servant to live a safe life. We seek your blessing for a flawless progress of this event of the today. We seek your guidance to steer clear of the event that will detrimental the progress of this event. Oh, Ya Latif, Ya Rahman, please bless us with your tawfiq and hidayah. Please guide IAN to the goodness, peace, glory, and prosperity in this world and hereafter. Make us a responsible intellectual. Grant us valuable knowledge that will give benefit to the mankind. Make us your righteous servant, follow your commands, and neglect the secret. Please forgive us for our wrongdoing. Dear Muslim and Barakah, bestow peace to our beloved country Malaysia. Preserve us from any threat and disaster. And to you, Ya Allah, we ask for security, our religious and our country. Use the passion in us in order to face the challenge. Please accept our deeds and please reward us accordingly. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you, Sister Aisyah Hazira, for your beautiful recitation. Now, let us proceed with the recitation of Asma'ul Husna and IIM song.
Lead the way, light in the future, share the wisdom to the spirit of wisdom. Revelation and reason shall excel, shall prevail. Merging faith and knowledge, we the Khalifa, we will fulfill the Amanah. Together we make the world a better place forever. Expand the culture of equal. You is to realize we make the world a better place forever. Expand the culture of equal. You is to realize the people. Mercy to all worlds, all mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, Motivational Program for Resilient Women is a program organized by Mahalah representative committees of Mahalah Kulthum to provide motivational and leadership skills and training for students on campuses as well as at home. We are very honored today to have a distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Asma Ismail, to kick off the program today. But first, I would like to invite Honorable Assistant Professor Dr. Intan Azura Shahdan, Principal of Mahalah Kulthum, to give her welcoming remarks. Please welcome her.
Honorable Professor Dr. Asma Ismail, Chairperson of Ibn Sina Chair for Medicine, Sister Ardani, the Program Committees, Sister Raida Akmal, the MC for today, Organizing Committees of Mahalah Kulthum representatives, all virtual participants, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to MRC Mahalah Kulthum for inviting me to give an opening remarks for this special motivational program for resilient women. The name itself may seem feminist in every possible way, but it shouldn't be looking for the perspective of feminism, because in the Quran itself we have a surah called Surah An-Nisa, which contents are not purely for women, not about females, or not exclusively talking about the roles of females, the roles of women, the law of inheritance for the women, the status of women in marriage. But there are also verses on swords, mission to kill enemies of Islam in battles, verses about bravery, and verses about righteousness. So this encompasses both men and women. So by looking at one surah itself, this particular surah, we can understand that women, which is the title for the program today, is not only synonymous to be assigned to certain roles which are expected of them, or certain status, but that we are at par with the male counterparts in terms of the rewards of our bravery, of us being righteous, or even if we reach that level of muqayyadam, which is another content of the Surah An-Nisa, inshallah, Allah will grant us with the highest rewards as what will be obtained by the men. So coming back to the name of the program, the Motivational Program for the Resilient Women, the adjective resilience here means ability to bounce back after calamity, or a problem, or a stressful day, or even a breakup, because sometimes girls face in their hard relationships, and the capacity to adapt when we are facing these challenges. And also the capacity to embrace the new norms, which is the common phrases that we hear every day. So in these days, Alhamdulillah, we are given the opportunity by Allah to be involved in a different kind of war. We don't have to hold swords. So these are different kind of war that will compared to the ones faced by the Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his companions. In those days, the battles involved physicals and mentals, and many would suffer the consequences of the wars, the battles that they faced. They would lose their loved ones, they got injured, they lost their wealth and homes. But our war is no different. We are up against one of the smallest group of microorganisms, coronavirus. Instead of holding shields and wearing the bulletproof or arrow-proof vests for the matter, we are putting on our PPE every single day. So PPE is our armor. Instead of holding swords or rifles to fight this enemy, our weapons are our patience, sabar, as well as vaccines and all medications and treatments given to fight off this COVID-19. In this battle, most of us are psychologically affected with lockdown, restricted movement, unable to meet people, being separated from family members, and could not do as many social activities as we used to, as we want to. So these are how we are being tested. Let us strive to come out victoriously from this war. We can do this by training ourselves every day to endure, to increase our sabar, and we can learn to adapt to the situations and become the resilient women, if there are brothers there listening to us today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us, our families and friends, all the Muslims with the highest level of Jannah for our sabar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with victories in this life and eternal life. May Amin Ya Rabbal Alameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Please join us to get inspired with the sharing from the past prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Intan Azura Shahdan, for the words of wisdom and encouragement. Before we proceed to our highlighted event title, I'm sorry. Sorry, my fault. Let us watch a video first.
I am an outlier in the sense that I do not have children. I do not have my own children, but I have 31,000 children in university science medicine. I believe that behind every successful woman is a very understanding and supportive husband. And that's a fact. Because if you do not have a supportive and understanding husband, he will clip your wings. And when he clip your wings, you cannot fly. Therefore, shop around before you marry the first man. You know? I mean, please, people, just because that boy gives you some flowers and he says and chocolates, he says, I love you, and you marry him, hello, think again. You know? So what I'm trying to say is that get to know who you're going to marry, because it's so very important. You may be highly educated, but when it comes to that one person, you become very vulnerable. And that one person can make or break. So I thank God every day. I thank God every day that I have a very supportive, very understanding man. I said to my best friends, very few of us get to marry malaikat on earth, you know.
Good luck, ladies. Not many of them out there. Just want to say that.
Thank you for the video. Before we proceed to our highlighted event titled Empowering Women for a Better Tomorrow, please allow me to introduce our honorable speaker. Our distinguished speaker, Professor Dr. Asma binti Ismail, graduated with a Bachelor of Science from University of Nevada. Nevada, USA. She obtained her master in microbiology from Indiana University, USA, and PhD in cellular and molecular biology from University of Nevada. She was the first female vice chancellor of University Science Islam Malaysia USIM, and then became the first female vice chancellor of University Science Malaysia USM. She had served as the country's first female Director General of Higher Education and is currently the first female president of Academy of Science Malaysia. At present, Professor Asma holds the position of Ibn Sina Chair for Medicine at IIUM. Professor Dr. Asma is a passionate scientist and a magnificent scholar. She has always dreamed about local innovations that would generate wealth for the country, but more importantly, improve the quality of life of society at large. Her dreams came true when she successfully developed a rapid and affordable diagnostics kit for typhoid, called Typhidot, which was advocated by the World Health Organization and has generated millions of sales, hundreds of publications, and more than 500 jobs worldwide. Not only that, with Typhidot, Professor Asma has helped create a startup biotech company pioneering in biodiagnostics for Malaysia, and she currently serves on its board of directors. In 2018, Professor Asma was awarded the Tokoh Sri Kandi National Award in Academic and Tokoh Maulidur Rasul in 2019 for her outstanding contributions and exemplary achievements in the field of higher education, research and innovation, and policy on science and technology locally and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, with great honor and privilege, please welcome Honorable Professor Dr. Asma Ismail.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Very good morning to all the ladies and to all the participants. Thank you very much, Dr. Intan and the organizing committee for inviting me. Thank you, MC Raida, for the kind introduction. So let me begin the presentation. Let's hope that it works. Can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Sound check, okay. Right. So first of all, thank you once again for inviting me. And I like the concept of motivational program for resilient women. Wow, that sounds like a go-getter among all the students at IIUM. So that's good. I've not talked to undergraduates and students for some time. It's always my lectures are always for the academics and for the professors. But this is good to touch base again with the student after I left University Science Malaysia. So I hope that given the talk entitled Empowering Women for a Better Tomorrow, I probably hope that it can do some motivational aspects and actually move the students to actually do better, be able to cope better in times of COVID-19. This will be what I'll be covering, the impact of COVID-19 on education and on leadership, because you've got to understand this, and about leadership and leadership at times of crisis, the traits of a woman leader, how to prepare yourself to be a leader in the future. Are women there? Are women there as yet? Or rather, are women leaders, are we there yet? Saying what's holding us back and some way forward. Okay. Let me start by saying that today our world faces the confluence of very pressing challenges. We have problems of population growth, food security, climate change, energy security, human diseases like COVID, and economic uncertainty. And we are all living in a changing world, facing many unknowns, like disruptive technologies brought by Industry 4.0, accelerating pace of change due to the digital age, the global economic crisis and global competition due to globalization. But all these basically have created a disruptive change in our lives, in our livelihood, and also in higher education. So as the world changes, I think we all need to undergo change in order for us to stay relevant. And you are undergoing change because you are now having a webinar instead of having a face-to-face meeting. And this webinar now has become a norm. And you are now also sharing this via YouTube so that now others can around the world can also now be able to pick up what is being done. So democratization of knowledge is happening big time now, and this is better than previously when there was a sharing of only a small with only small group of people. So change is happening, and if you want to undergo change, it has to begin with you. So to be a leader, however, you need to understand the big picture in order for you to understand your role in it. And this big picture, first thing, is the unprecedented global crisis of due to COVID-19, which will require global solutions, and not just IUM solution, but global solution. COVID-19, as you are aware, has accelerated digital transformation across all the industries, across everything that we do. And with post-COVID-19 economy, almost every job now, whether you like it or not, would require that you have some sort of digital skill and digital fluency. And what has happened is that when you say the word that you want to require digital skill and digital fluency, half of the world's population is without internet. So when that happens, this is a digital inequality that resulted in missed opportunities among those without the internet. And the pandemic and the digital era that it accelerated have basically resulted in the widening skills gap that we see, especially among women, right? So for the last years or decades, with all the educational opportunities that we have given to empower young girls and women, we have improved, right? But the pandemic is now about to undo all those successes that we had before, and we're back to square one. And I will share with you how much back we are to square one. And because in these crisis situations, inequalities and threatening conditions that already exist are now exacerbated. So the digital gender inequality, abuse, women violence, etc., all have gone up. Right? And if you find that before the pandemic, 130 million girls were not in school, because not every one of us, hashtag, we should say, hashtag syukur selalu for all of us who are here in the universities, whether you are put up in the dorm or not. But remember, 130 million girls never had the opportunity to actually be educated at all. But now, due to the coronavirus, 767 million girls saja are not now in the schools nor in the universities. So because there are about twice as much, about 1.4 million actually now without being in the university, that is including the boys. So when the girls start to spend time at home, you end up doing a lot of unpaid domestic and care work, right? You know that that's going to happen whether you like it or not. And therefore, when you start to do all this work, the work-life balance now becomes a difficult thing, and basically this gonna make you a bit problematic to access for higher education, and when you are at home, you are also now also subjected to being domestic violence and also for abuse, right? So okay, and impact on mental stress is of course there with the economic lockdowns occasioned by COVID-19. They have created an enormous stress, not only to you but also to teachers, to academics, to workers, to students, to parents. Incidents of child abuse, domestic violence, sexual exploitation have all been reported because you can't run away because of the lockdown. You can't get out of the house, and you can't run away because you'll be caught somewhere else. So, but basically, all this is creating a lot of mental stress, and by impacting schools. When we close down the schools, many students get their meals from the schools. So that means now they don't have that support as well. And many parents, as you know, have lost their jobs. Among the private sector, I think we see a lot of impact on this, and this lead to mass internal migrations and education in the, and when you have a loss of job, food is not there on the table, education takes a back seat. So many students try to learn from home, facing isolation, facing lack of peer support, and of course lack of physical activity. No exercise, no nothing. You can't get out, you can't play tennis, you can't play volleyball. The whole thing is all affected. So those in the terminal school year, imagine those in the terminal school year are anxious and stressed because what will happen, especially if you are in the final year of the undergraduate, what's going to happen? I mean, it's been 2 years that you have not attended classes. And are you trying to get a job? And if you are trying to get a job, will the employers think that your quality of education is the same as what students who graduate with regular university attendance? So all these crises of all kinds are very anxious times for students, for parents, for academics, for counselors, for people like Dr. Intan who has to take care of the students, right? So all this is mental stress. And for students, I think the hardest aspect of sudden school closures, especially when combined with injunction to stay at home, is the fact that you're now being torn away from your social group, right? Almost overnight. And when faced with crisis, it will disrupt, however, the lives of students in various ways, depending on their course of study and the point they reach in their program. The fact that you cannot go into the hospitals, I'm not sure whether your skill as a doctor or going to be a future doctor is there, or as a future nurse is there, or whatever para health that you are involved in. And those ending one phase of their education and moving to another also face a lot of these challenges. So how do you do with these things, right? So education system and institutions should make reassurance of students and parents through the targeted communication. This, I think, is a priority, which a lot of us also keep quiet because we also don't know what is it to say. But I think this is things that need to be assured at all times. Communicate, communicate, communicate whatever information that you have and you know, so that especially what are new things that is going to happen, etc. Because you yourself and none of us also know when this disruption will end. So you can't say, oh, after the vaccination, when will the vaccine happen, finish at 70 or 80% herd immunity? Would that be okay for us now to travel? Whatever. So all this still needs a lot of answers. And you need of course, helplines and resources outside the school system or the university system that can now address emotional, psychological challenges. However, let me tell you one thing, that we don't have enough of psychiatrists and people who are counselors. The number of posts is also limited, and so the only thing is kita tolong kita lah, to give support for each other. So, but there are some positive outcomes, not all. There are, COVID has got a lot of learning, has got lessons to be learned, right? And some of the positive outcomes is that what is participatory leadership, where various team members are empowered to give opinion and make consensus decisions for the country. And we find that, for even for vaccination to happen, we can no longer work in silo. The Ministry of Health cannot work alone. It has to be with the Ministry of Science and Technology and with all the other ministries as well to come in to make sure that vaccine can now come into the country and be vaccinated and all that. So they are now with the understanding that no longer working in silos. So, and we also see civic heroism among our health and social workers, our bus and military drivers, the garbage collectors, all this. They are there when all of us are at home, and they are there working, when all of us are at home, and especially to the Grab riders and food panda riders, while we are safely in the dorm, they are going from place to place, sending the food. So all this showing social solidarity to combat. We also show, scientists also show shared responsibility. They repurpose their labs, etc., to get the PPE out. And we see enhanced global collaboration and sharing of knowledge And what we are seeing is that intangibles or values now rise over KPI. It's no longer about how many papers you publish, but even before the papers are published, they are now sharing that concept, right? So basically, this is the spirit that we want to have even after COVID-19. The spirit of good citizenry, the spirit of values-based education, as stated in the higher education blueprint, nurturing of learner values-based talents that are balanced between knowledge and character, balance between ilmunaki and aki. So these are the kind of things that we want to have, because this is also advocated by Falsafah Pendidikan Kebangsaan. And to teach values-based to the future generation, the leadership and the university ecosystem also have to be entrenched in values. So tak guna kita so students saja, tapi kita sendiri, the academics, are not entrenched in values. The organization need to be entrenched in values. So values, when internalized, will now become more sustainable. So the question is, how relevant is values in today's higher education? And we find that, today's educators basically are preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist, using technologies not yet invented to solve problems not yet identified. So bottom line, mega unknown in the future. So if the students are expecting answers from me today, you're not going to get it, because you're going to have yourself face a lot of unknowns in the future. COVID-19 is just one of that, right? So education, is more than studying for examination, for ultimate employability and satisfying industry needs. So education is to stress character, competency in leadership and competency in your profession. So the three must function in unity, but ultimately character is of priority. So you can see the intangible called character is the one more influential. And today, as I said, is the era of convergence, merger between information technology, biotech revolution, which has created the biggest tsunami in our lives and livelihood. And the future is about VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So to face VUCA, basically we need to prepare students or individuals of the future that have strong values, because what you retain, ladies and gentlemen, for the rest of your life is actually thinking about one's thinking, or which is called metacognition, problem solving skills, the art of effective communication, and the art of self-reflection. So at the end of the day, you actually have a balance of skills and what we call smart skills. Sharp skills are the knowledge that you need to have, the physics, the chemistry, the biology, the mathematics. These are the knowledge, yeah, and the smart skills are actually the skills of willingness to learn, the skills of problem solving, the intangibles. So actually, that is at the end of the day, probably that's what you will face, because whatever you learn today from health or from medicine, things will become obsolete 2 or 3 years from now. So you need to actually have lifelong learning is more important. Yeah. So our education system should provide better learning experience to the student, where critical thinking, problem solving, communication, etc. All that. In fact, you gotta do a lot of flexible education. It's gonna be here to stay, but lifelong and life-wide education is also very important. Lifelong education is within your field of expertise, your proficiency, but life-wide education is about life itself. How to repair tire of the car if the tire is blown. So all those things are career and life skills that you need to have. So basically, you need to be flexible, adaptable, and agile to respond to change. So if you're calling yourself the women of resilience, okay, then learn this, right? You gotta be flexible, you gotta be adaptable, agile to respond to any change, and not just be, oh my God, I've been locked down again, what am I going to do? Do not go into that rut of thinking. Yeah? So you need to undergo problem solving and the willingness to learn or to do new things, right? During the times of crisis. So tomorrow is also about collaborative economy and the sharing information, and tomorrow is about trust between human beings. So the way forward is going to be values-based education, where you learn, unlearn, relearn, co-learn, and co-create things together. But regardless whether in business or politics, COVID is a test for leadership, right? Because um, uh, COVID is a test for real-time leadership, right? And communication by an impatient global audience. Everybody is expecting you to solve the problem of COVID now or die. So this is an unprecedented, remember, unprecedented crisis, unlike anything seen in our lifetime. Therefore, previous leaders, if you now say, oh, based on my experience, pada hemah saya, I think this is the way you want to solve it, it's not going to work, okay? Because there is no such experience that you can bank on. It's totally unprecedented. So all this experience and expertise that you previously had is not relevant. That's why I'm just like, I don't understand why people are fighting to be the leader of the country, because this doesn't mean that you have what it takes to lead in an environment where everything is unprecedented, right? So leaders today must learn actually to lock down or reopen country while walking on thin ice. Actually, is trying to balance between health of their population and with that of the economy need to open up the country again. So all this is actually walking on thin ice. So I never really want to be in that situation. But whatever the future brings, one thing is certain, those in charge will be judged on how they manage this crisis. So what kind of leadership then is required post-COVID-19? Leaders who are able to pivot and learn new skills, that means, as I said, agile, flexible, adaptable, and leaders who emphasize on employee development even when times are tough, and you must display as a leader honesty and integrity. So you gotta have sensitive, you gotta be sensitive, and you gotta be understanding of the stress, the anxiety, the frustration that people are feeling, and these traits, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not, is part and parcel of the DNA of the woman, right? So, but as the crisis continues and intensifies, all leaders, as Dr. Intan said, all leaders, regardless of gender, should strive to meet the needs of the people. So, the question then is, how do you prepare now as an undergraduate? How do you now prepare, or even as a postgraduate, before you enter into the real world? How do you now prepare to be a post-COVID leader? And if you're an academic listening, how do you also prepare to be a university leader in the future? So before we answer how to be one, let me first of all deep dive into what leadership is all about. If you talk about a leader, all right, then if you say leader, then you have a gender attached to it. The leader can be a male or can be a female. But if you talk about leadership, then actually it's gender neutral, it's genderless, right? So the topic of leadership, if you think that I can explain leadership, think again, because this topic of leadership generated 640 million results. Tak percaya, you type sendiri dalam Google, generated 640 million results with 735 million on the definition of leadership alone. So can you imagine how much caca maba it is just to define what actually is leadership? So our understanding of leadership remains incomplete despite decades of research. But although the definition for leadership is many and varied, but suffice to say that everyone is a Khalifah, is a leader with responsibility to lead humankind or the organization to the right path. So leadership is the ability to lead, to motivate, to inspire people, produce results, right? And very important, as I said, leadership is the ability to articulate. So IIUM, if you're good at so looking at faculty of law, very good debaters, right? So basically, it's very important that you have the ability to articulate clearly and of course have the charisma to be able to get people to understand, for God's sake. If you're going to be a leader of a dorm or of your club or society, people need to understand where you want to lead them people need to understand what is your vision, how do you plan to go forward. So all this is very important. So even though all of us are individual leaders in our own micro environment, but remember, among us there are still a leader among the leaders. Among the professor, as I will say, there are many professors, but there are still a professor among the professors. Right? So these are individuals that need to be nurtured. You start this leadership, I think, when you are in the dorm, and then you go now into the classroom, etc. But all these leadership qualities need to be nurtured in order to become a team leader and eventually an organizational or a university leader. But unfortunately, the Quran says one thing, but society has other ways of interpreting leadership. And the way society has decided what comprises leadership is very much gendered. These are some of the common gender stereotypes. Just that first ayat, men take charge, women take care. So suddenly, if you want someone to take charge, it's got to be a man, but a woman cannot take charge. So because a woman only takes care. So these are the kind of gender perceptions that is now happening, and because of that, women take care. Therefore, women's place is at home, and her job is to marry and raise the children. And alternatively, we must also remember the positive side. The hand that rocks the cradle actually rules the world, because behind every successful man is actually a very supportive and understanding wife, so, or a woman, right? So imagine, therefore, if the hand that rocks the cradle is a scientist or educated mother, then she has the power to educate the future generation to change the world and make a positive difference. So we wait and see whether this can happen or not. Some of the qualities among women that you, whether you like it or not, is actually inbuilt in you. We are great at building a relationship, and provide unique set of skills, ideas, and life experiences because of the things that we have to go through. And as women, it's not a problem for us to empower others. That means allow people to grow. A lot of the men, they want to make sure, however, that they are the leader, but divide and rule, that kind of stuff. But for women, it's different. When you pegang leadership situations, you like to empower others, allow people to grow. That motherly instinct in you would kick in, and that allows that to happen. And usually, you are more sensitive and in tune to people's needs. You can see in a group dynamic what's happening, who is not, who is just too much, and who needs to be reined in, and who we need to now nurture. You can see all this, so you're sensitive to that. And all this is because you're used to balancing a large number of responsibilities at home, at work, taking care of the husband, taking care of the family, taking care of the children, taking care of the elderly. So you have and then you have to go grocery shopping, you have to do a lot of things and take care of the house. So when you do all this balancing that you are now experiencing, whether you like it or not, is actually creating an experiential learning experience and nurturing you to be a better leader in the future. So women leaders are seen as transformational relation and collaborative leadership. This is the kind of leadership that is needed today in this disruptive world. So, but like I said, the acid test for leadership is when you are faced with a crisis. So women leaders basically have higher success in fighting COVID-19. Studies have shown that women leaders around the world have had a considerably more success in slowing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic and its general outcomes. So countries that are leading in terms of deaths per capita still remain very much with the alpha male-led countries. You understand alpha male? Alpha male is I am boss. So basically, like United States under Trump before, the highest number of deaths is coming from United States, from United Kingdom, from India, Russia, Brazil. So these success stories, basically with women, have to do with the leadership style of the prime ministers of for example, I give you two examples. New Zealand, right? The Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, was able to officially declare New Zealand as COVID-free, and one of the first countries in the world to do so, after the Prime Minister took a drastic step of shutting down the country, and then now New Zealand is COVID-free. Of course, I want to explain to you about Germany, about Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany. When its European neighbors were all struggling to contain the crisis, being a scientist, and she is a scientist, and she used science and guided by data, and she reopened Germany's economy earlier than other European countries. So when she retired, Germans gave her a 6-minute ovation across the nation simultaneously. You can see all of them coming out of the house and giving her a huge clap across Germany simultaneously. And basically, she left the office with honesty, with integrity. She does not have new suits. I purposely show a picture of her with a new suit, and a lot of the photograph, a lot of the news people were asking, Chancellor, why are you having the same suit in every meeting that we go to interview you. She said, you know, as a prime minister, I'm here, I'm sure you want me to use my brains and not for me to become a fashion model. So sometimes, as long as you have one or two or three great suits, I think that should be enough. The rest of the time is what you do that matters. So basically, she is showing to you a values-based leadership. So women, basically, this is now a study done by Harvard Business University, Harvard Business Review in 2020, and showed that when discussing the careers of women leaders, there's a phenomenon called glass cliff, because all of us have heard about glass ceiling, but there's another one called glass cliff. Glass ceiling is when, you know, as a woman, you can see up there to be number one, but you can never reach it because there's always this invisible barrier to the advancement of women often face when they are up for promotion to the highest levels of an organization. But what if that is a glass cliff? And the glass cliff describes the idea when a company, organization, or even university is in trouble, then they call upon a female leader and put the female in charge to save it. You know why? This is the irony of things. Nak sangat jadi leader. Okay, now that this university is broken or now that the organization is broken, ambil lah. See whether you can handle it, you know, and what happened is that when women are finally given a chance to prove themselves in a senior position, and as they are handed with something that's already broken or chances of failure is high, they survive. Well, when they did Harvard did a 360-degree review among sample size of 60,000 leaders, every one of them will now say that during the pandemic, women outscored men on most leadership effectiveness and leadership competency. So there you are, ladies. It looks like whatever traits that you have that God has given you actually allows you to now cope with crisis very well. So the traits of leadership post-COVID-19, the greater importance placed on interpersonal skill, like inspire, motivates, communicates powerfully, collaboration, teamwork, relation building, all this women are rated quite high. And female leaders actually express more awareness of fears that followers might be feeling, concern for well-being and confidence in their plan. In fact, the United Nations women have stated that the leadership style of women leaders in the COVID-19 response have been described as more collective rather than trying to be individualistic, more collaborative rather than trying to compete with each other, and more of coaching, of helping, of nurturing rather than of commanding. So all these concepts that I have explained actually are concepts of values-based leadership, right? And leadership, ladies and gentlemen, is about teamwork. So to be a great leader, you need cooperation, you need the buy-in of everyone in order to move the organization forward. So this is what is known as participatory leadership, right? So if you want to move any problem with the dorm and whatever, it's better that the leaders of the dorm do not simply decide what has to be done. It's better that you have a discussion so that you get a consensus. This is part and parcel of empowerment. You need to empower the people in the organization or in the dorm, whatever, and you need to unite people around a shared vision. When people give opinion, right now, ladies, people don't want to shut up, people want to give their opinion, and therefore empowerment plays a very important role if you want to now be leader in the club or in the leader in the dorm or whatever. You need to now discuss, you need to get a consensus opinion about how to move forward so that you get a shared vision. You need to provide purpose with meaning. And as they say, women displace participatory leadership, so there shouldn't be any problem in the dorm. So you need whatever decision that is made to attain buy-in or consensus by engaging, by discussing and empowering. So empowerment on a shared vision is very important because it will make people feel a sense of belonging to that dorm or that mahala, and they are now saying, or to that university or to that kuliah that they are capable now. And so that when they now become alumni, they will always remember fondly of that particular kuliah. Right? So, and because with empowerment and participatory leadership, everybody is saying that I help to make the organization great, right? So you need to find potential leaders and place round pegs in round holes. So now I move to how now can you prepare yourself to be a post-COVID leader. Tak kisahlah kalau you undergraduate, one day you're going to be a leader. If you are already an academic, then one day you're going to be a leader. But whatever it is for early career, I call it early career so that if you're ready now for real world, you need to strive to be a domain expert. That means if you are in medicine, you better be very good in medicine. If you are in allied health and you are a nurse, you better be a very good nurse. So basically, strive to be a domain expert. So you got to believe in yourself that what you do matters in terms of discipline of knowledge and psyche. So if you're an academic, especially when you are in early career, you got to publish because the peers need to know what is it that you're doing. So you need to do quality, responsible research that has an impact to the industry and to the society. So knowledge now, as I say, is huge. No one is an island. So you can jumpstart by collaborating. IUM may not have the best of the laboratory facilities because as a scientist, I've seen the labs. So perhaps this is a time for you to collaborate with the researchers in the research universities and actually have your graduate students park there in order to be able for the graduate students to now have accessibility to some of the equipment that is needed to move their research. So to the students, find and the academics, those the career, find mentors that can support and help you, but also realize that what is good for the mentors may not actually be good for you as well. So you still need to find your own path, your own way to go forward. But be heard, in a situation where you have a discussion, be heard, but be realistic about what you have to say. Some people want to talk a lot, but actually they're talking rubbish, or they're talking about things that people don't want to hear. And sometimes because not that it's not important, it's the way they deliver it is making people angry. So you gotta be and how you deliver something, ideas. People will take it more seriously if you speak from experience. If you speak from theory, it's not gonna happen. So you got to turun padang lah. If you want to be a leader, you got to turun padang. That's the best thing that I can tell you. And you have to build self-confidence. A lot of our students at IC, minta maaf ya, do not have self-confidence. Self-confidence is what you need to push you to create this positive change in you, to open doors for others who come after you. So, and when you are somewhat a leader, do not feel threatened because you need to be good in what you do. And of course, like my video says, choose your life partner well. As a woman, if you do not choose your life partner well, that will affect your career choice. When I will discuss about this when we talk about work-life balance. So actually, if you are a young academic, move from quantity publication to quality publication. But whatever you do, either in the real world or in academia, from output go now to impact or outcome. When you are mid-career, establish good support in your network locally and overseas. There is, in this world today, you've got to create network. And you've got to create network locally and you've got to create that overseas as well. So, and especially if you're a young academic, so you have to create an academic standing in your area of expertise. I would say that if you are still an early career or you're still belum lagi associate professor, do not hold any administrative post as yet. Give time to yourself to actually prove that you can be a domain expert, because a leader in the university demands respect, and you cannot get respect if you're not a domain expert, because the professors will not be able to respect you because they think that you are no better than them. So that's why you have to start to be an invited speaker and not go to conferences and just request, because that is and to be a keynote speaker or an invited speaker, you have no choice. The ability to articulate effective communication is very, very important. And strive to be an innovator for both the academia and industry. I think that for me, for life is about balance, right? So you work hard, you play hard, but you publish well with integrity and perform responsible, impactful research or any other activities, but do it with a responsible manner. And also always be action oriented. And if you are an academic, supervise your graduate students, perform community engagement and take up admin only after confirmation. So if possible, like I said, be a domain expert first before you take up any admin position. There is no shortcut. You have to climb the ladder one at a time. But unfortunately, in the real world, with the young millennials, like the students now, tak sabar nak dapat promotion, tak sabar nak gaji besar, tak sabar anything. Basically, what is that word? Sabar, patient is very important. You don't show your ability, how we going to promote you. So this is where you need to give time. A lot of us have come a long way before we get promoted. So the one thing, if however, even when you have not yet gotten an associate professor or whatever, and you're given leadership roles, so when opportunity knocks, take it, because the leader or person in charge that recognize your ability, and therefore do not turn it down when opportunity comes, right? So when you are a senior, when you are a leader, when you are a professor, always you now become the role model, especially among women. There are not very many of us in the whole country. I will share that with you. You need to be a role model. You need, and if possible, start a mentorship and sponsorship program. So to guide the young and people to now move forward. Now, when you say mentor, a lot of the young undergraduate, they all have mentors, right, among the academic. Mentor is about giving advice, about giving guidance. I prefer to be a sponsor. So sponsor is about advocacy. Sponsor goes beyond mentoring. They are in the ability to make doors open for you. They make things happen for you. They see you as someone with talent, and they can now bring you to the next level. So that is a sponsor. Whereas a mentor is just someone that you just for advice. But mentor is also important. It's always supportive, always rooting for you. To go forward. So it's better if your mentor is also in the capacity of a sponsor. That one lebih hebat benar lah. That mentors can now play a more active role to allow now the young to climb up. So, but you know, even though you are ambitious, you must remember it's not about just ambition. You gotta be a person, a woman of substance. If you don't have substance, it's not going to make any sponsor to recommend to open the door for you. So like I said, build up your character, ladies, because that is the one that is going to make or break you. So and if you are already a woman leader, you're a leader in the dorm or whatever, ensure that at least gender parity, that means 30%. Um, if you are dean, then make sure 30% of women holding positions in your kuliah, for example. And go down to the ground and meet people, nothing worse than turun padang. I mean, nothing, you learn a lot when you turun padang because it will enhance your experiential learning. And when you turun padang, you get to know people better, and this is how now as a leader, you put round pegs in round holes, and then they will now be able to shine. Also, when you see great talents, like say you are a counselor, you are in charge of the dorm, for example, you see someone among the leaders, among the young undergraduates who are talented, nominate them for awards, push them forward, but package them. This is where I find that a lot of the universities that is non-RU, you do not learn to package your candidate. Untuk tokoh among the among the undergraduates, kita ada malam untuk tokoh student ni semua. So this is the time that you package the candidate well. It's not about just nah engkau pergilah untuk menjadi I nominate you. That is not enough. You need to package the person. You need to sell the person well. So there are plenty of women who are overlooked. Satu lagi many talented women but overlooked for leadership position. So if you are in the ability as a sponsor or as a leader, recommend more females with good referrals, and also very important that a person, especially in my situation, I usually if I see a talented individual, I lend my credibility to basically advance the career of this woman. So basically this is the step by step. Whatever you do, accessibility to good education is very important. Daripada sekolah sampai ke masuk ke universiti. Accessibility to good education is very, very important. Then only when you come into the university and this is for academic, then you develop the career of the academic and then you can become a leader. Okay, so now let's go to the last part of my discussion. Women as leaders, are we there yet? Right. So if you look at women leaders around the world, nations with females as head of state, 38 sahaja, and professional jobs held by women, about 52% of professional jobs are held by women. Executive officers, we have 14%. Top earners among women, 8.1%. Fortune 500 CEOs, we have 4.6%. How many women researchers are there in the world? 32%. And how many women actually won Nobel Prize for the sciences? Only three, yeah? 3%. So basically, if you now say the prayers are for bagilah opportunity kepada wanita to get gender parity. Mana bukan gender equality, gender parity. Parity mana 30%. So berapa agaknya, how long would it take for women as leaders to just hit as leader up to 30% pun jadilah. So the latest calculation, it will take 2085 before any of us get to see gender parity, baru 30% happening in the world. Okay, to the world. Okay, let's come to Malaysia. Right, our population now stands 32.7 million. 51.5% male, female 48.5. So maknanya at awal-awal lagi it's not 50-50. The latest statistics tunjuk macam lebih ramai anak lelaki daripada kaum Adam, daripada kaum Hawa. And how many of this are in the labor force? 15.7 million. So one of the greatest changes in Malaysia in recent years, we see an increase, alhamdulillah, an increase of women in the labor market. So in 2007, women's labor force participation was at, in 2007, 46.4, tetapi in 2019 is now 55.6%. So that means more than 50%, 55, about 56% of women are now in the workforce. But itu dalam workforce, kita tanya berapa are now in holding leadership position. So as I said, Malaysia is about the only country that put in black and white that the country target and have policies that make sure minimum percentage of 30% parity for women's involvement in decision making in the public sector, macam universities, government, jadi KSU, etc. And in the public and the corporate sectors. Right, so we all need basically to work towards women empowerment and equality, not only today but every day. So if you look at the situation in Malaysia in 2020, this is the latest statistics from the Department of Statistics Malaysia. The government sector, 30% of wanita are involved in decision making. Mana jadi dekan ke, jadi vice chancellors ke, atau jadi KSU ke, atau jadi director general ke, whatever, about 30%. In the private sector, kurang lagi 27%. But not too shabby that we see. However, if you ask me about accessibility, did we in Malaysia have any cultural hang-ups that we block our girls atau wanita from attending universities? A lot of countries are still blocking wanita for going for higher education, setakat educate sikit sudah lah. Tetapi in Malaysia, nothing like that happens, right? Malaysia, we are open, and finally when you have that, you see that in the public university, 61% adalah student wanita, and in the private university also 53% adalah student wanita. So accessibility to higher education is there, and we are also seeing that even in the STEM related fields, because I'm of course being a scientist, I need to see where STEM is. So being in the STEM related fields, the number of female students enrolling is greater except for in engineering. Engineering ni masih lagi lelaki. Tapi we are catching up, 44% are wanita. In manufacturing, more men, and also in construction, more men. So this indicates that women in Malaysia have high inclination juga towards the STEM fields. I mean, especially pelajar-pelajar di IIUM Kuantan, you are of course in the STEM fields because that's the health campus with regards to the tertiary education. The next step now would be whether as a STEM student you are able to now translate all that STEM knowledge to relevant professional fields. Interestingly, just to show to you, Academy Science Malaysia gave me this data. Where is the in all states, women have surpassed men in terms of educational attainment. So, and the women um, are there to see that more and more are there, more women now in the in all states lah. Tak payahlah kata Pulau Pinang saja lebih wanita, tapi looks like in every state more. And if you look at female researchers, usually female researchers are underrepresented in many ASEAN economies as they are across the world, bukan ASEAN saja, but Malaysia, almost half of Malaysia's researchers are female. 55% in the government sector and 50% in higher education. And the United Nations that Malaysia is a world leader in encouraging girls and women to participate in science. Okay, baguslah. But the question is, how many of the women are actually leaders? How many of them are PI, principal investigator? Kebanyakannya semua jadi RO, research officer sahaja. So this is reality. Although in comparison to other countries, the number of women involved in research in Malaysia is the highest. But bila we deep dive in Malaysia itself and find out female versus men researchers in Malaysia, there is a decline. Right, there is a decline. The male women, you just look at the red bar, we are beginning to see a decline even as research officers in Malaysia, and there are more males now coming in to see that more males are now involved in research than females. So we are very high in accessibility to higher education among all states. We see that we are also high in terms of having been educated, and we see that we are also high in the labor force. So despite the achievements of women, this does not translate to women leadership in higher education, right? So the question is why? Because if you look at this data, the number of women coming in, into the university, this is in all of the public, 20 public university. Kalau nak tanya berapa lecturer wanita that came in, 60% of lecturer wanita compared to 39% lecturer lelaki. Tetapi as you go forward now up to associate professor, you see 48% saja di kalangan wanita yang ramai-ramai ni, alright, menjadi associate professor, tetapi di kalangan 39.2 ni dah naik jadi 51%, maknanya ramai lelaki akan menjadi associate professor, and as you go up to professorship, we only see 36% wanita that made it to become a professor. Tetapi lelaki, walaupun they start smaller, alright, end up they are the highest number of professors in the country. So bottom line, what you are seeing, dah banyak lama dah saya study this data, daripada saya muda sampai yang dah sekarang, there is always a leaky pipeline. Bukan leaky, ada pipe tapi pipe penuh dengan lubang-lubang, air masih keluar. So there's a leaky pipeline because of the work-life balance that actually now if you do not have a kind of support, as I said, it will make you or break you, and a lot of the wanita cannot handle it, and basically they give up and they retire, and that's how now those who made it are probably a small number. So as you can see now with COVID-19 and the current situation, we find that women vice chancellors used to be 4 out of the 20 public universities. Now we are down to 1. Professor Datuk Wira Raha sahaja yang remain standing as the only female vice chancellor of UTM. And women TNCs, yang jadi TNC, we used to have 13 out of 68 posts TNC dalam 20 public university, now we are down to only 4. So, and a lot of them now being replaced by men. So, masuk akal tak? Here we have university, 61% of the student population are wanita, but at the end of the day, the one that leads us are not women, but men. And so this is the situation that we now face. And I'm trying like an Academy of Science whereby only the top 10%, top best 10% scientists are members of the Academy of Science. And we find that even though I'm the first female president, nasib baik dapat jadi president, tapi bottom line is that even though I try hard, I can only move from 18% to 19% today. So that means dalam kalangan wanita among all the fellows pun very very low number. Maknanya kalau profesor hanya 36%, so how many of that can actually be the top 10%? So that's why it's so difficult for wanita sekarang to find role models, to find who are your sponsor, to find wanita yang dapat memberi pertolongan, tunjuk you cara jalan, how do you make it. So this is the kind of problem. So the question is, why do women hold back? Why is there a decline in leadership at decision-making level? So, like I said, we are the best in handling crisis. We have all the traits that is needed for participatory leadership. We show values-based leadership. So why do we hold back, or will we help back? Itu dua soalan yang kita kena tanya ni. So, and number one, we find that fear of failure. Wanita hold back because they takut. If they make the wrong decision, it will cost them their job, it will cost them their reputation, and it will cost them to move up the chain. So basically, they takut. So the fear of failure. And of course, the biggest problem of them all is the work-life balance. They're torn always between work and family, and when you should start a family, and if you start a family, that's it. Then the employers, especially in the companies, will think that you are vulnerable, tak ada Jack Robinson, you nak beranak, and all this not making the company want to hire a wanita. But in the public sector, this is also, although discrimination is not allowed, we take the best person, tetapi a lot of them also quit early, right? Because they cannot spend enough time and concentrate on the job. And the third reason why we help back is because of inferiority complex. Some still believe that men are stronger and they make better leaders, they have better ideas and are more equipped to achieve success. So sometimes we find that that is also happening in this. And then satu lagi, which the young people maybe you don't understand, but we find that in the STEM professionals, especially, researchers found that 43% of women in STEM career left their job within 4 to 7 years. All of you are in STEM. So if you find a job in the area that you have been trained, maybe you will leave your job for, this is the average now, 4 to 7 years of having their first child. They will leave because it's difficult for them to cope. And women in Malaysia, statistics have shown that most women in Malaysia upon marriage leave their job at 26 and never return. And whereas Japan and Korea, they leave they leave the job upon marriage because they want to start a family, but they will return to work at 35 years of age. They come back to work. And then there's another problem. We have a gender pay gap, whether you like it or not. Probably among the private sector is real. There is a difference. Walaupun wanita itu memegang job sama macam lelaki, tetapi gajinya berlainan. They are lesser ladies. So but in the public sector, hashtag syukur selalu, in the public sector, JPA tidak membenarkan. So basically wanita associate professor dengan lelaki ni associate professor sama je pay dia, right? And then we always have this problem about gender, that boys are naturally involved in the sciences and girls, should take care, stay at home, domestic science is probably your area. So this makes girls daripada awal lagi lose confidence in themselves in STEM. And kadang-kadang is encouraged by their teachers not to go into STEM. So this reduced confidence will lead to reduced test scores, which further reduces the confidence again. So over time, girls' aspiration, interest in STEM careers all start to decline and sometimes disappear. And I'm hoping that the new girls now, being women of resilience, will not give up that fast. Women often feel great pressure compared to men in providing the professional worth and ability. So lots of other job opportunities available. That means most women will leave hard science and go to soft science, right? So that because the job is less stressful and does not require commitment. So the question is, why is it that we see less women get promoted in higher education, right? Sometimes it lies with the selection process. If the job of the VC is actually, kita memang suka lah kalau job tu is externally advertised. Kita ingat, wah, job untuk jadi director general, job untuk jadi KSU, all are externally advertised. So kita ingat everything is fantastic because now everybody can come in, alright? But remember, everybody can come in, betul, but there is a selection committee, alright? And the selection committee sometimes, when we say structural, it always depends on what is the selection biasness. Sometimes the selection committee says it's better to find someone from the outside, like director of IIUM is someone from USM that has come in, someone from the outside, rather than someone inbuilt from IIUM sendiri untuk menjadi the director. So these are some of the things. Why? Because they are thinking, the selection committee is thinking perhaps an external candidate, orang dari luar, is a key driver of change for the university. Sebab kalau daripada dalaman, dia encumbered with all the vested interests, etc. Memang tak boleh nak move lah. So these attitudes and assumptions will selectively look for candidate with external and internal experience. How many women have that kind of experience, right? Because if you come from IIUM, you want to go up to become dean, or you want to go up to become campus, or you want to go up to become a vice chancellor or TNC, not all women candidates are mobile in your career. You know, like for me, I hashtag syukur selalu because I had the opportunity to uproot from always USM to now go to USIM and then go to Kementerian and then come back to USM. When I come back to USM, I become a better person because I gained a lot of experience already working in the various places. And you know, if no women cannot uproot and bawa the whole family and suaminya sekali and all that. So when that happens, the chances for wanita to be selected as candidate become lesser. Yeah. Satu lagi, another aspect of things, walaupun advertised, universities, you know, tend to be conservative and risk adverse organisation. So sometimes they kata better lah kita appoint a rector or ni yang ada experience, you know, because experience maknanya indicator of quality. So and who is experienced daripada mereka yang sudah pun memegang sebagai TNC or sebagai dekan, so they come from the inside, right? And they want someone who is a rector or VC that can hit the ground running. Maknanya dia dah penuh dengan experience and all that, and that precludes serious consideration of a more diverse candidate. That means non-standard candidate macam wanita sekarang ni again is at a disadvantage, right? Because it fails to take into account dengan pemikiran selection biasness macam ni, it fails to take into account the candidate potential. Therefore, you can have a very talented woman but less experienced candidate, less experienced, they are not willing to take that chance because that woman is now deemed to be too high risk. So the selection therefore is safer to get a more experienced candidate, and that candidate usually is selected. And bila candidate tu menjadi rector atau VC, pada amnya selection committee akan membenarkan rector atau VC itu memilih siapakah menjadi TNC. And whether you like it or not, people tend to recruit those made in their own self-image. Kalau dia ni bangsa jenis hardworking, dia akan cari juga makhluk yang hardworking juga to be their deputy. So and when that happen, a reflection of their own image, maknanya is not conducive to diversity. So many again talented, ambitious women may be disadvantaged. So of course, I cannot deny politics and culture also play a big role as to who gets to be the number one of any university. But studies have shown in Malaysia that women get promoted tak influence sangat oleh culture, tetapi more structural, right? The selection committee biases, and of course semua ni saya boleh cakap, tapi at the end of the day I cannot deny that politics play a major role as well as to who gets to be one. So let me, in a few minutes left, talk about work-life balance. If you talk about pre-COVID, there is no such thing as a perfect work-life balance. Okay, basically sacrifices need to be made. The time you spend with your family and the time the family spend with you. But you sacrifice your time to spend with the family. The family also sacrifice their time not being able to be with you. So basically there are sacrifices both. But something has got to give. You tak boleh kata I'm perfect the way it is. So something has got to give. You've got to have give and take. That is why I say in my video, choose your life partner well, right? Because you need a supportive husband, you need a good family support, and if some lucky mother, a great maid or helper that stays with you for a long time, alhamdulillah. But otherwise, shop around before you marry, as I said. So apa ni? Because the person, as I said, can make or break you, and that's why a lot of women left their job at 26 in Malaysia and actually never returned. So work from home, this is another one, right? So kita kata dulu tak sabar kita nak kata okay, let the women get flexible working hours, yang senang dah hantar children, lepas tu concentrate on the job, and then can get children from the school, then come back and then concentrate on the job. So we want some flexible hours. All God has given you the flexible hours. We got things called work from home, all right? And work from home has brought about changes in lifestyle that suddenly now blur the boundary between when is work and when is home, right? Because sekarang ni, like for me now, you're asking me to give a talk on Saturday, for God's sake. That kills even my work-life balance, whether the students realize this or not, right? So bottom line is that I've been working for 5 days a week non-stop, and bottom line, I have meetings until 9 o'clock because the fact that people don't care anymore. You can call meeting anytime now. So that makes the boundary being blurred. Sekarang increase, in fact, domestic and caring responsibilities of wanita. Whether you like it or not, you are now at home, you are expected to masak, you are expected to take care of your children, you are expected now to take care of the elderly. Dulu you at least can send the children to childcare. Sekarang ni dengan lockdown, you cannot do that. No one to take care of the elderly. So now all this have come in and impeded work productivity and make precarious and insecure work arrangement, reduce access to research facility because graduate students pun tak main lab, and then workplaces due to lockdown. So when you get all that happening, wanita sekarang ni ramai yang dah tulis in that they are burnt out, right? And they are burnt out. And because they cannot leave the house, that also has come to mental stress, that has come to a lot of domestic violence and domestic abuse is also happening big time sekarang. So and then don't forget that kita kata wah, technologies are here to stay. Bagus lah, internet ada, disruptive technology ada, artificial intelligence ada. But as we embrace technology, technology ni is supposed to help and enhance our work, and dia akan remove a lot of people who hold repetitive jobs seperti clerk, seperti mereka the accountant dan sebagainya. So bottom line sekarang ni, we find that now it will be replaced by the computers, replaced by the machines, and most of these repetitive jobs sekarang ni they are held by women. So Malaysia belum full blast lagi, but when we start to go full blast, because kita dah launch 4LR policy, the national 4LR policy, maknanya technologies are here to stay now in our country. So now we have to now start to educate more and more wanita who now become digital savvy so that they don't lose their jobs and they are not doing repetitive jobs. So in most countries during COVID-19, this is another problem that we see when facing economic crisis and money is scarce. This gender kicks in again and say that perhaps we should leave the job to men, sebab men are the one that are taking care of the family. So wanita tak tak payahlah kita bagilah kerja pada lelaki. So that means dengan one shot, any country that make that kind of decision, it's difficult now for single mothers to survive. So most women in Malaysia leave their job, as I said, and never come back. So that's why I say at the end of the day, men should be part of the solution. Tuhan dah buat kita to be in pairs. And men should be part of the solution. When things are not right, they need to speak up and they need to do the needful, right? So, and the other positive thing that we see is that by working from home now, we see that online business and social media also can become a good alternative for women to find jobs. So the last slide, in terms of way forward, there is a need for inclusive recovery. We will recover from COVID-19, I don't know when, but if we do recover, we need to make sure it is an inclusive recovery. That means it includes gender, it includes mereka yang marginalized dan sebagainya. So we need policies that will be supportive of workplaces to minimize the challenges faced by women in the workforce. We need flexible working arrangement and changing expectation of work value. Bukan flexible maknanya anytime can call you, but rather what is the work value that is there. And the other thing is that most of the students, kalau they are graduate students, they are probably research officers, but our internationally, the grant funders like have like US and the UK, they have extended the grant for salary such that even though the RO is not in the lab because the labs are closed to COVID, the salary can still run, so they're still making their pay. But in Malaysia, belum lagi sampai to that level, so I'm not sure how many of you are already entrenched. And the other one is that perhaps there is a need for a flexible KPI, that during COVID, when university and labs are closed, maybe it's better to evaluate academics or whatever based teaching and learning rather than on lab output. Or maybe we can evaluate people based on how many have you helped in terms of volunteerism, helping society at the probably at the PTV, that means the vaccine, or how many of us have shared responsibility instead of only publication. So perhaps there is a need for flexible KPI. Whatever it is, there is a need for policies to be in place to prevent gender discrimination, needs to be in place slowly, and gender education must start from school so that we are all gender engaged even when we are still young. So it is, I would now say that success is not counted by how high you have climbed, but how many people you brought with you. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, and I acknowledge the Academy of Sciences Malaysia for the data that I use in presenting this talk. So thank you very much, and back to the MC.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Asma binti Ismail, for the great sharing. Now we will proceed with Q&A session. As I got a few questions from participants, and let me read their questions for you. So, question one from Dr. Intan Azura. Mahalah committees or MRC are not popular posts amongst the students, mainly because the students presume MRC are like bully, like boss and bully. Because all students, seniors would make lots of complaints, and MRC are the ones that need to entertain these complaints. So the question is, do you think holding extracurricular posts for students during university tiresome and unnecessary burden?
Dia macam ni, to be a leader, you have to get experiential learning. So bottom line is, and leaders can come, experiential learning comes in many shape and form. So part and parcel of service being service based lah, that means those MRC whatever they are service based, melayan orang. And dalam service based memang, as I said, you should have discussion, engagement before any rules and regulation happen. So and from this, you'll find that there's a lot of learning. Inshallah, there's a lot of learning. Of course, you will see things like the burden, but that is why you say, how do I solve this? When you do the engagement, to me, I find that even when you did the university, the the vice chancellor can say, I'm the VC, you know, come up with all these rules and regulations. I don't do that. I ask for discussion first. So even if Dr. Intan is the one in charge of the Malay, she should ask for discussion first. This is our problem, state the problem, what would be our possible solution. So bila kita ada engagement dan kita come up with a shared agreement, that means semua orang agree this is the way forward, then ramailah akan dapat buy-in. So that's why kena aim to dapat buy-in. So dalam servis ni, as you are now doing it, alright, because you tak dapat buy-in maybe, that's why ramai complain. So bila ramai complain, then you kata nak melayan orang sana sini kan banyak leceh, it takes I use the word banyak leceh because it takes you away from your studies and whatnot. And pada amnya, student leaders usually end up with a low CGPA, betul tak? Because you don't jaga layan orang ni, you tak ada masa untuk nak study. So, and that's why you know, bila work for people, especially if you're interested in politics, when you work for people, you tendency for you to give up too much of yourself in there. So you need to have a proper work-life balance, right? Balancing act too is very important. Know when is priority and know when is not priority. So that's why I think discussions, first of all, reduce the problem. Bila reduce the problem, then you don't put in much time to try to layan the kind of problems that you face. So that, and reduce the problem is by empowering people to give ideas and come up with shared ideas, and then empower them to allow it to happen. So kalau semua student leader juga kena buat, then it's simply not on. So student leader, you must see that you are facilitating, bukan you are the one who have to do everything. So itulah pendapat saya.
Okay, the next question. What is your opinion on our community perspective where men should be the leader instead of
What did I say to you? Right? Dalam universities also that I've been to, what did I just say? Walaupun 61% of the students are wanita, and yet they want men to lead. Because not men, bukan semua lelaki faham kehendak wanita. And you know, my husband usually say that at the end of the day, bukan men yang tak support, it's the women yang tak support wanita to be in the lead. You know, irony kan. So ramai lagi berfikir sebab cuba analyse whoever ask this question, how many percent wanita ada dalam universiti? 61%. Maknanya IUM pun tak duk main lah. All of you lebih wanita daripada lelaki yang ada dalam IUM sekarang. So bottom line sekarang, if the women were all voting, alright, it would be a woman leading. Am I right? Yalah, mathematics. If a woman, you have more women than men, and if all the women were voting for women, right, the candidate will win right away. But because ramai wanita vote for the men, and that is why the men will take the lead. So maknanya, apa yang kita belajar sekarang ni, gender still kicks in. Am I right? Gender still kicks in. This perception that, what did I say to you? Walaupun studies have shown that wanita handle things better dalam crisis. Crisis is sekarang, ladies, and I don't know how long this COVID is going to happen. Crisis is right now. So wanita has all it takes to be a leader in times of crisis because of what God has given us, right? Tetapi still, we think gender-wise, it kicks in that perkara macam ni, leadership macam ni, baik lelaki. That's why I said men take charge, women take care. And when that happens, padahal tadi Intan daripada awal lagi, Dr. Intan pada awal lagi dah kata, Anissa pun tak kata, you know, it allows women to be leaders in Islam as well. So Aisyah is also a leader. Khatijah is also a leader. So I mean, sometimes, you know, you tak realise that gender biasness does come in, and that is because of your upbringing. That's why I said gender education should begin when young, so that you are gender engaged and you faham hour dalam kerja, alright, taking care of the house is a 50-50 thingy, right? It's not like this is a woman's thing to take care of the house. So bila kita, when I say I got supportive, it's because, perhaps my husband is gender engaged from young, so they understand that maybe of course the US education does help him to see things differently. So that these are the things lah that bila kita cakap, you dengar I cakap macam teori, bila you dengar praktis baru nampak sekarang.
Okay, so Adani, I think you have a question, so please.
Assalamualaikum Prof. Asma. My name is Nurul Adani. I'm currently first year in Club Medicine. I would like to ask you a question if it is alright with Prof. So, as throughout our leadership journey, we do like find ourselves in a moment where we are kind of overwhelmed, or maybe we find that our spirit or our patient doesn't resonate the same with our team members, doesn't reciprocate. So, as Prof mentioned just now that we have the art of self-reflection, I would like to ask for Prof advice, like what can we do in those times in order to sustain the running of the organization? And
Apa ni, dia macam ni, at the end of the day, it's good to have support group. Right? It's good to have, tak kira lah 2 ke 3 ke, it's good to have this good friends who are support group. And the support group can not necessarily be among women, the support group can be among men friends as well, bukan boyfriend, men friends, right? So you have, as long as you have a support team, and that's why bonding is very important, rapport is very important dalam kita punya teamwork. That team is really a team, and team is not about one being leader and the rest are followers. No, team is about everybody putting their weight. So when you have something like that, then you have a team, and that helps you a lot to do all this. Self-reflection is about, when you make a decision to do something and then on the go you, so maybe you should every morning fikir balik, apa yang aku buat, apa yang betul, apa yang which aspect yang tak betul. Because kalau you tak buat self-reflection, you akan sentiasa ingat you betul seumur, so problem lah kalau macam tu, kalau you ingat you ni betul saja all the time. So self-reflection is very important. That's why I said dalam kita punya learning is thinking about our thinking juga. Like for example, wahyu turun, you gotta do this, right? So then we are, and we give a knee-jerk reaction on that particular guru ke undang-undang wahyu yang turun. And then you now say, let's think about what I just said, whether what I said is important, is correct or not. Because sometimes you need more information, and knee-jerk reaction can be also very dangerous. Sebab you dengar orang bercakap tapi you tak pernah turun padang, you tak pernah tengok apa yang berlaku sebenarnya. Then you dengar, sebab di social media ni, it can be very dangerous juga, sebab ramai duk tulis-tulis, and fake news is always there, especially rumors kan, dia disensasikan lagi. So things like that. So to me, I also it's good to have that self-reflection and think about metacognition, think about one's thinking. That needs to be there, and most leaders do that every day. Leader means kita lah, khalifah. We are khalifah, right? So we have to do this every day, especially in things yang disturb you. Katalah pagi ni nak pergi kuliah tapi ataupun you nak pergi hospital atau whatever, but it disturbs you. Something that your friends did or what that disturbs you. You need more thinking on that. And this is where being friends, and sometimes has to be frank. Sebab kalau friend yang tak cerita, habis are not true friends. Because if you are a true friend and you're frank, you patut terima lah the good, the bad, the ugly, So but kalau tak ada kawan yang nak cerita kat you tak tahu juga. So real friends should be able to tell you the truth, and you should be able to take it. Because it's coming from your true friend who cares. Yes. I don't know whether I'm answering you, but try. I'm not a motivator, so it's difficult. I'm just Okay, no experience. Yeah.
It has actually answered my question. Um, I think I can't the thing to other participants because I believe other participants also have question. Because we actually will end our slot at 10:35. Thank you very much Dr. for answering my question. It's really inspirational for the session.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I had expected more questions from the students. You know, although this is my second year that you're asking from, so the undergraduates usually have a lot of problem, especially first year yang nasib baik yang ada dalam kuliah, tapi there's a lot of first year have not come into university yet, and yet they are university student.
They're not.
They are,
These
yeah,
these persons have never been. They have never stepped the foot in the mahala.
in the mahala.
The communities.
They are still at home, right?
Yes.
So that to me, that's also a cause of worry. Sebab a lot of budak-budak dia dah standard 1, standard 2 tak pernah masuk sekolah. Betul tak? Itu budak tak pernah masuk sekolah. Can you imagine university student mengaku diri you IIUM, you tak pernah masuk IIUM, you tak tahu IIUM tu macam mana, you tak tahu Kuantan tu pun macam mana. So and you don't even know yet each other except melalui internet, right? So susah. Melalui internet ni dia hanya facial, tengok sama body language, dia boleh tahu how the friends are. So lah ni kira dia make friends based on internet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, right.
Any more questions right now?
Yes.
Anis
One
tu,
questions from I think we can have any two questions. This is from YouTube from International Conference on Malay Medical Manuscripts. Okay. Question is says that I know this question may seem ridiculous, but have you ever experienced something that mentally drained when you were young in your 20s, and how did you overcome that?
I okay. I do not allow anything to mentally drain. Right? As I said, I people ask this question all the time. How can you become busy, become busy? With all the bashing kadang bila berlaku dengan higher education, and and when we are busy, of course, especially at a big university like USM, 30,000 students. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of problems. So, but I don't allow that to happen. Either in my younger days or even now. You don't allow because, as I said, daripada muda lagi, I believe in engagement. So when I was a supervisor for my graduate student, I say one thing, hampa tak cakap siap. So I want them to tell me how to do things, how to do it, because it's not about me telling them, it's about a two-way street. Because I say to them, to the graduate student, I learn from you as much as you learn from me. So daripada awal lagi, I set the scene. Sama, because when I'm busy, when I meet up with the student leaders, I meet with them every month. Not more all busy meet every month. I meet with them every month because I learned that being a DJ is very important that you meet with the student leaders, because the student leaders tell you of what are the problem on the ground, and if the problem can, and I said to them very simple, if the problem can be solved, I will solve it. If the problem is irrational, your request is irrational, then it's very difficult for me to solve it. So ask for me reasonable request and I will deliver. So, and the students will ask for reasonable request. Right? Sebab kadang-kadang fikir on certain thing yang memang impossible to do, lepas tu you nak marah. Apa? So bottom line, engagement, communication is very, very important so that it doesn't mentally drain. And then when you work as a team, all right, when you work as a team, is everybody putting their weight. So I can be PI, principal investigator today, but the rest of the academic with me can also be PI the next day. Because to me, when push comes to shove, whoever is the one that is in charge can be in charge. So that's what I mean by empowering. I have no problem about I must be doing this. And in fact, running the university at USM, I find that even though it's a large university, it doesn't create a lot of problem because of empowerment. So perkataan empowerment is a very powerful word if you use it well. And when you use it well, when you empower, you make decision by consensus. Lepas tu you benarkan the deans and whatnot to undergo this is empowerment to allow them to show their creativity and whatnot. When that happens, you have why should I be mentally drained? You faham tak? Because everything is going because everybody is part and parcel of an organisation. So kalau you tak membenarkan mereka tunjuk dia punya talent and ability to lead, then you sendiri nak buat belaka lah. So kalau macam tu, it's not about the organisation, it's just about you. So in running an organisation, it's about we together, to move it. So when that happens, why should I be mentally drained? So, even in my work, in my research, I don't know because I always work as a team. I'm not, you know, that's why even in presentation today, I acknowledge academic science for the data that they provide for me. So, macam itulah, work together as a team. And I think empowerment is a very strong, very powerful word that can turn around a lot of things that is now happening. And with empowerment, you get participatory leadership, and that's how everybody, uh, everybody wants to belong to something. That is human nature. So when you allow the empowerment, then kita boleh nurture, and kita tak takut untuk nak express. Sama juga the young academics in USM, they orang tak takut nak express to me what is the problem, because they know I will listen. If the request is reasonable, I will deliver. So macam tu lah. Because, and at the same time, I memang jenis turun padang. So daripada young sampai sekarang, I memang jenis turun padang. I don't allow things to just happen and then I sit on the ivory tower. So I memang turun padang bersama. Kalau dengan student pun bersama. It will take a lot of my time, but that's why I said there's no such thing as a perfect work-life balance. Can you imagine being vice chancellor day at night, pergi student punya affair, pergi academic punya affair, buka conference, this, that. Antara student punya affair punya banyaknya pembukaan student sini, pembukaan student sana, malam-malam tu macam-macam. Actually, in a whole week, I don't even have dinner time with my husband. So what I do, drag my husband sekali pergi supaya I'm always with him. So then at least you have a supportive one. You have a husband yang kata, no, I don't get involved with all your students. Susah lah macam tu. So that's why I said choosing the life partner well is very important because they can be supportive in what you do. And when you have someone who's supportive, why is there room for your mind being me? Tak ada masalah, you don't undergo stress. So that's your job now, to find a good partner.
Okay, so I think that the end of question and answer session because we running out of time actually. So thank you so much, Professor Dato Dr. Asma binti Ismail, for your sharing, and thank you participants for your questions. Before we end, I would like your cooperation to switch on your camera for the photography session.
Well, Alhamdulillah, I have a man there, Muhammad Danish. It's not easy to get a man to come in. We must all congratulate Muhammad Danish for bravery to come in during the Women's Day.
Approve the session now.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Dr. Intan. Thank you, everyone.
Wait,
Bye. Thank you.
Prof, we
You kata lagi?
no, No. I say that Pak Pro can lead this session.
They
Now,
want to take a screenshot.
pro photography session.
Uh-huh.
They want to take a photography session first.
Okay.
They're taking time.
Okay, is there anyone else who want to open their camera?
It's okay. I think we can take picture now.
Alright, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alright, one more. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. The
Thank you,
next,
Prof.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof.
One time come see you at the OCD.
Okay, okay.
Dekat Rumah Campus punya office because that's where my office is. But right now with all this lockdown, masih lockdown lagi ya di
Yeah, we have finished our PKP. Tapi everybody still lockdown.
di lockdown lah. Sama lah. I'm in Penang now, in my house in Penang. So
Oh, that's nice.
well, also under lockdown. So that's very good. Okay, bye everyone. All the material. Okay. Bye. Assalamualaikum.
Awesome.
Thank you, Prof.
So to all participants, thank you for joining this program, and don't forget to fill up the registration form provided. Thank you.
Ending live in 3, 2, 1. Thank you everyone for participating.